Hello. Good morning. Welcome to the stream. Thursday, July 23rd, 9:33 in the morning. It's been several days since I've done a stream. Today is day 4,927 days in a row. 4927. Fantastic. I got my tea. Hopefully you got your coffee or caffeinated beverage today. Krista, what's up? Thank you so much for signing up for Painter's Path. I'm like super excited. I saw that email this morning and I was like, yes, so cool. Can't wait to start interacting on that. It's a big step. It's a big step for me. Hopefully it'll be fantastic for you. I'm going to do everything I can to make it awesome for you. So thank you for showing up today. It's going to be a fun day. It's going to be a pretty fun day. It's got to be because honestly, last couple days has not been good for me. It's okay though. I'm fine now. I have problems with migraines. So last couple days, big migraines, terrible days. But I'm back. I'm good now. I'm good. I'm glad you're excited. Yay. Awesome. I want to show you something first before we get into the painting and everything. That feels kind of dark. Feels a little dark. The lights are set up fine. Let me make it brighter. Okay, maybe that's better. Yeah, that's better. So I don't know if you can see this. You probably could see it before I made it a little bit darker. So we're back to 6x9. This is a 6x9 sheet of paper. I did a coat of PVA sizing by Gamblin. One coat on the back, two coats on the front. And then if you can see right here, right there, and right there, one of my kittens decided to step on my paper while it was drying. So I got little kitten paw prints. So funny. It's even more meaningful now to paint on. I love it. I do need to set up my reference today. So there's going to be some setup today. It's going to be a lot of talky today. A lot of talky. Not a lot of painty. More talky than painty today. But it's going to be good. It's going to be good because this is how I think, paintings get better when they start out. When they start out with, talking about what the plan is. And, I feel that. I feel that because my paintings become better once I do that. But let's recap the past couple days because I have done something. So on Tuesday I went plein air painting. I did this not so good plein air painting. You can see it has some of the actual plein air on it. Look at that. It's stuck in there. A little, I don't know, some kind of piece of grass or something. So I'm in Colorado and it's basically a desert out here. And oh my God, it was so hot, like super hot when we were painting out there. Luckily we were in the shade and we even almost stepped on a rattlesnake. It went from like just chatting while we're walking to holy crap, it could be a problem. Yeah, it was, I was thinking that you'd be like 10 feet away from a rattlesnake and it would start doing its thing, rattling and then tell you, hey, move, I'm here. But no, we were like right on top of the snake, like 2 feet away before it decided to say, hey, dude. Luckily, the rattlesnake went one way and we went the other way quickly. But that was exciting. Not the type of excitement that I like to have. Beautiful snake, though. Pretty cool. I mean, if you hate snakes, I don't know. I love almost every animal. Spiders are just creepy, but I can put them outside. But yeah, did this painting. It was fun. It was more about connection and chatting with the friends that we went out with. And I'll be talking about that with this new painting. I can't wait to show you what I have for the new painting series. So I did this on Tuesday. Just wanted to show that. I do paint landscapes every now and then, especially when other people are out there with me. Now, the painting we just finished, we just finished, I like using the royal we on this. And I'm zoomed in. You can't see the whole thing. It's a little bit bigger. You can see the difference in size from 6x9 to this guy, which is 8x12. So we just finished this. I'm happy with it. It's getting pretty close to dry already. I really love this painting. I like this idea that I'm on right now, this extreme sunlight. I'm going to continue with that on the new paintings. Yeah, I love everything about it. It's so much fun. I mean, there could be some improvements, obviously. That's every painting. This is the one I did before that influenced that painting. Still think this one's awesome. I'm really happy with this one. Super good. Yeah, so those are the paintings I did. And then one day when I wasn't feeling too well was the day when I set up all the photos. I did all the editing for the photos, which you'll see in a second. At least one of the photos that I set up, and why the photos. I'll be talking about all of that. So one day was the setup. I didn't like draw or anything. It was just thinking about like the connection with the photos and stuff I'm going to show you and getting the paper ready. And then the other day, hi Slipknot, welcome. Hi Doobie. And the other day we did some life drawing. You can kind of see like my board back there. Did some life drawing. That was yesterday, and that was fun. Short poses on life drawing. If you guys ever get a chance, I mean, I know Omar is on here, and he's wanting to do a lot of, or get into like comic books and stuff like that. Life drawing, man, so important for that. Slipknot, any chance you can paint Corey Taylor, singer of Slipknot? His mask on the third album is awesome. I was just talking with someone else the other day about commissions. And they're like, do you ever do commissions? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to admit this. I'm a jerk when it comes to outside influence. I'm terrible about it. I am not a nice person. Hey, Donnie, welcome. Davenport, Iowa. I used to live in Davenport, Florida. Kind of cool. Commissions, like very seldom have I ever connected with the person that wants something with actually what I want to do. And with my artwork, it has to be something I'm excited about. And I'm sorry, but not excited about that at all. No. So I hate to let you down there, Slipknot fan, but I think it's a great opportunity for you to be awesome. Yeah. Oh, Slipknot are from Des Moines, Iowa. That's cool. Cloudface, hello. From England. Fantastic. Would love to hear your accent. Okay, let's get into the new painting today. And this is the process, guys. I told you it's going to be a lot of talky, not a lot of painty, a lot of talky today, but it's important, okay? This is important stuff. I'm going to show my screen. I have to move to the screen, okay? And yeah, okay. So hopefully you're seeing my screen. I'm gonna go to here. Oh yeah, you're seeing screens. I had to go to the infinity screen just to check real quick. So this is something I do with every painting, where I create like a folder on Google Drive, and it's like my projects folder, and inside of that, blah, 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 right? And I ask these questions about every painting that I do, okay? And I think it's really important, and I'll get into the why of this painting, and hopefully through talking to you about this, you can have like maybe different ways of thinking about why you're doing something, or like a connection with it. This stream is going to be all about connection. It's a word that I've been repeating constantly, and there's so much more fulfillment out of it. And especially within this stream and connecting to you guys that are here, it has made these paintings that I've been doing so much more fulfilling. Because I'm connecting a little bit closer. It's much different than creating a video on YouTube and just throwing it out there and it always be in my voice without much feedback. Like the commentary back and forth is a little indirect, but this kind of connection. Okay. So this is one of like 100 photos that I took. I picked out several photos that I really loved, and I'll talk to you why about these photos. And it starts here. Why am I painting this? Okay. Why am I painting this? And I kind of wish I could have this picture kind of come along with all the text while I'm doing this. I could probably do it, but let's not worry about it right now. Okay. Why am I painting this? So I had this crazy idea because I just painted a couple paintings of hands and bodies. Remember, I showed you these guys right here. So hands and bodies connected, right? In direct sunlight. These things. Man, I can almost put that upside down. So these guys, right? So heavily influenced by previous paintings. You see that kind of connection through it. And in direct sunlight, not indirect sunlight. And I love all the shapes, the high contrast, the change from neutralization to saturation. Let me go back to my screen so you can see what I'm talking about. But I couldn't find any more reference images that I liked that featured both hands and bodies in direct sunlight. So I work from a lot of imagery from like Satinezilla or Graphite Studio. These are professional photographers that have models that model for them. A lot of them are for like comic books and game development. People can do drawings like that. So they feature a lot of like very dynamic poses, guns, and things like that. So to fit that genre, and most of them are done within studio lighting. So like all the images that I did found that had like a body with hands, studio lighting. So then this crazy idea hit me right here. This crazy idea. What if, and see how that's bold? I bolded that for a reason twice. What if I take pictures of me or my friends posing how I like? Okay, what if? But what if I also make it more meaningful? How can I make it more meaningful? How can we have more connection in this? And I'm going to switch back to my face so I can see comments real quick. How's the weather in Brighton? It's sunny, 24. It's 26 degrees here. Not too hot. I'm tired of the hot weather. Yes, it's like 100 degrees here. At least it's not humid. But I spent the entire winter moaning about the cold and gray skies. Yeah, the extremes. Totally understand, Cloud. The news said it'd be 39C this month. Ugh, that's awful. What was that, like 110 or something, or 102? The switch between Celsius and Fahrenheit is terrible. It's not easy. So what if? What if I also make it more meaningful? When I'm taking pictures of friends of mine, of people that are close to me, there's connection there, right? It's a real person. We have to get out in front of real people. So hands on bodies. How can hands communicate emotion and connection to the person's body? Not only in the painting / image, but how can I help my friends think about their own bodies in a very empathetic way? So empathy. What is the definition of empathy? Define empathy. Words matter. Words matter so much. I've been learning that lately. Like it's so the action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experience of another. So the act of imagining one's ideas, feelings, or attitudes as fully inhabiting something observed. Ooh, I love that. Fully inhabiting something observed. So empathy. This is what I'm talking about. How can I help the people that I'm taking pictures of be more empathetic to their own bodies? And so I came up with 3 different questions. Okay. 3 different questions to ask my friends while I'm taking these pictures. And here's the questions. What part of your body do you love and are not afraid to show off? Okay. Think about that. Now, while I'm asking this, think about it for yourself. Okay. You're like, oh my God, it's supposed to be about art, Chris. Why am I thinking about my body? This is part of it. This is the stuff. This is the fuel that takes us into artistic journeys that we would never think of before. And things that are more closer to our heart in some way, right? This is the fuel for great art, okay? What part of your body do you love and are not afraid to show off? See? This whole idea of like showing your body to the public or someone else in some way, very intimate, very difficult, right? It's very hard for a lot of us. What part do you love is a little bit easier. Like if you like a part of your body, you're like, hey, look at this. This is great. I feel great about whatever, you know? The next question is a lot harder. What part of your body do you have reservations about and are afraid to show off? So I'm getting this person to think about their bodies, right? The body parts. And for each of these, I'm doing the questions out of order. For each of these questions, think about that part of your body. What emotion do you feel about that part of your body? And then use your hands and try to communicate that feeling by touching that part of your body. Okay. And of course, there was a lot of caveat that went with this. I'm like, if you really love the very sensitive part of your bodies that can't be shown to people without, this going into like rated R or whatever, then, we'll have to figure that one out. But you don't have to go there, right? But using your hands to communicate that emotion. So not verbally, I'm not asking them to tell me how they feel about this part of their body that they like or they dislike, but what do your hands say? And then use your hands to touch that part of your body. And those are the photos I'm going to take. Those are the photos that I did take. Okay. So the part of your body that you enjoy, that you're not afraid to show off, and the part of the body that you have reservations about and you are afraid to show off. Think about that for yourself. I think it's really interesting. Oh man, the photos were just amazing. And then a different one for a part of your body that hurts, that ails you, surgery, scars, chronic or acute. Same thing. A little bit of empathy. Maybe there is some difficulty there. Maybe you're like, you darn part of my body. Why are you failing? How can you communicate that with your fingers? I mean, think about it. I mean, if we're doing something from our imagination and we're thinking about these emotions, like you love something that's going to be a very light touch, right? It's going to be very loving touch. Think about your hands and how you would touch something that you love, like whatever. Or you hate it. I'm thinking claws right away, like claws, right? So this is transferring these emotions, these ideas into visual representations. And when we go from emotion to visual representation, now we have something to attach onto. When we're painters, we can go, oh, now I know what to draw. I know what colors, I know what values, all this kind of stuff, right? So I took a ton of images of her and picked out many that I will paint. And I love so many of these that I'll probably do a whole series of just this person. I'm staying away from their name, okay, as much as I can. Anonymity and all that kind of stuff, because this is on the internet, right? And I'm so lucky that she allowed me into this personal and private space to take photos. Thank you so much. And you know who you are out there, right? And this image specifically, this image here, why am I drawn to this specific image? I was drawn to a whole bunch of images, so why am I drawn to this image in particular? So I'm asking these questions, right? And these are some questions you can write down for your next painting, your next drawing, the next thing that you're going to do. And there's no wrong answers. It could be as simple as, I'm just working on drawing. I'm not trying to really communicate a narrative or a whole storyline, simple to complex, whatever it is, there's no wrong answer. So why am I drawn to this image? Well, it's blown out. I love that idea of extreme white and high contrast shapes, the saturation around her lips, the emotion, the connection for all images. I'm going to bold this. Connection. What am I talking about? So there is a difference. Okay, let's go back to here. There's a difference between taking, and this is obvious. I'm so obvious, right? There is a difference between taking pictures of someone you know versus getting images from a basic reference, like of a model you don't know. You go to Life Drawing, and even if there's a person in front of you, and you don't speak to that person, and it's a real person that you're drawing from, there's less connection. But if you're getting photos from someone that you have feelings for, let's think of as a significant other, your best friend, a good friend, a family member, people that you have a closer connection with, there's more meaning that's interjected into these paintings. Now, this one and this one here are from models that I have no idea who they are. Like, I have less connection. There's less meaningful experience within that. And as I take those pictures, as I took those pictures and I'm speaking with the person, I'm talking to them about this, and we're dealing with this like heat. We're all talking about heat here because it's so hot right now. And it was oppressive, like oppressive sunlight on this person. We can't feel it in the pictures, maybe somewhat on this image because it's so blown out. And I could probably do this. Let's move this over so you can see the image here on my iPad. Nope, still not there. Oh, it's like all over the place. Look how professional my stream is. Let's make it smaller. Can you move? You're just not moving to the edge. Okay, that's weird. Okay, Procreate, why can't, look at all this extra room. Why can't I move over there? Whatever. So you can see that the image is blown out. So maybe that's communicating like a bunch of heat, but it was very hot, very hot. Making cinnamon rolls with the grandkids while listening to. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, autumn is my favorite. Yes, 100% Slipknot, especially Thanksgiving. It's where you can just eat everything, right? Wonderful food, beautiful weather. Not here, super hot here. But you can see, I like how that image is blown out, right? Where was I? Let's go back to the document. So connection was so important. You could see how meaningful that is. Like, 90% of all the work that I've done, no, I don't want to say 90%. I would say a good 50-50. If you look at all my paintings on my website, you'll see a lot of them taken from reference images, like from Graphic Studio, from all these different places, things like that, right? And it's wonderful because I'm having a connection within that image itself, but less of a personal connection within real life, right? Well, I mean, painting's real life, but you know what I mean? Like connecting with that person. Like each of those paintings, if I knew that model and had like dinner with them or game night or whatever, I would have more connection with them. I know a little bit about them and have that deeper connection. So the reason I'm talking about this right now is because I'm feeling so much more fulfilled with the connections that we're having here, the relationship on streaming versus just putting out a video that talks to the ether, and hopefully connects with someone. But that relationship is feeling more closer to what I want within my art itself. Okay. So for example, on a past stream, we talked about why sharing your work is important. That word is important. Sharing versus selling. I specifically said sharing, not selling. And as I was talking to people on that stream, it became apparent that maybe the more important word on that, and for others that I've already talked about on my one-on-one mentorship, that connection was more important than selling. Connection was more important than selling. And I think a lot of us artists really connect with that, really feel into that because we have such a personal attachment with all this artwork that we're doing that it's hard to get, to put on this other hat and we're like barking out sales to people and percentages off and all this other stuff. It's very difficult. So the seeking for connection, not only within the creation of our artwork, this image here, but also within the sharing of our artwork, finding a space, finding a place in your local neighborhood where you can share your work, you can do it in a safe environment, and you can begin connecting with individuals that you feel safe with in some way. You can be a bit more vulnerable, share your work in some ways, and not feel like, oh, you have to like kind of not share specifics or not talk about it, or you're afraid about people, what are they going to say? I know there's a lot of fear there, but connection is so important. So it doesn't have to happen with sharing if you're not into sharing your work online or anywhere, but having more connection with your artwork itself. Think about paintings or drawings that you've done before that you have no connection with, that you just did it because it was like, oh, I was bored that day and I just wanted to get something done. Those are good too. There's no bad artwork. Those are good too. And then think about other images that you have a deeper connection with, ones that you put like a tremendous price on if you want to sell them because you really don't want to sell them, or you don't show because they're so important to you. So connection will bring so much more into this art thing, I think, than anything else. So getting back to this painting, I'll go back up to the image slowly. This guy here, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to put it down here, right here, so we can see it. So I can move along with this. So what do I want to communicate with this painting of this image? I want to communicate the feeling that when I look at this image, I'm thinking internally what this person is feeling, what they're communicating. And I talked about this once before, like these wonderful ways that us humans communicate to each other in ways not words, with touch, with the way our bodies move, the way our faces move, different weird ways of communicating, such as yard sale signs or bags over parking meters to tell them that they're closed, different things like that. A boarded up window, all these different ways that communicate so much. So looking at this image of this person and how their hands are and where they're at, what they're doing, it says to me love, empathy, soft, caring, inner thought, private, emotion, introspection. That's what I feel. Now I'm bringing my feelings into it because I'm interpreting the image, the shape that they decided to put their hands in. Maybe it's completely different in their head, but this is, like the translation that begins. And all of these words are extremely important, but very difficult to turn into a painting. Very difficult to turn into a painting. We have to think about it. That's the reason for this document. That's more of the reason for writing things down and really thinking about it, because turning these difficult words, love, empathy, soft, caring, inner thought, private, emotion, introspection, what does that look like in paint? So how do I want to communicate it is the next question. And my first answer is, I don't know. I have no idea. This is really interesting because I love the extreme high contrast of this image, but I don't think that communicates soft, caring, empathy, or private. Like when I think soft, high contrast is not it, but we're dealing with an image that has that contrast. So I'm asking a question. Can I take that contrast and play with edges to soften the extremes and communicate soft introspection? I think it's a wonderful challenge. I think what I want to make clear here, what I want to communicate to you is that movement from these words here. And I really love taking art, taking imagery that we're dealing with, the paintbrush, paint, graphite, whatever we're using, taking those words and trying to figure out through us, translate those words into these fundamentals of painting. I think it's where so much inner creativity happens and inner style kind of blooms from. And it uses us so much because caring in a brushstroke could be completely different to every person that's hearing my voice. There's 8 billion people on the planet, and there could be 8 billion brushstrokes that try to describe caring, and they're all different brushstrokes. It's so fantastic. But taking those difficult words and thinking about them through the fundamentals. And we'll get into that because I'll be getting into the painting. But I think it's a wonderful challenge to take these extreme contrasts that I see within this image and think about those words in connection with them. They're almost opposites, right? They're on other sides of the perspective. Love, high contrast, maybe. Inner thought, private, introspection. I don't know. It's going to be a fun challenge. So for today, day one in this painting, we're going to establish the idea and the beginning drawing. So we got the idea established. It's going to be hard. We're going to think about the approach of what I'm going to use when I'm drawing this out in paint, and keeping all the white parts clear of any paint, keeping all the edges very soft. Why keep all of these light parts clear of paint? Let me go back to here so I can see if there's any comments. Nope. I've bored everybody. They're like, oh my God, there's a bunch of talky here. Need more visuals. So what I like to do, especially on this paper, so this is hot press watercolor paper, 140 pound. I wish I could get thicker paper because it does kind of bow up a little bit, but when I coat it with PVA size, but the thicker paper, the 300 pound is like 5 times more expensive. 2 coats of PVA size on the front, 1 coat on the back to help it straighten out somewhat. This kind of non-absorbent coating on this paper lends itself well to scraping off all the way back to the white of the paper and leaving just a little bit so we get like a nice glow, especially around all these edges. But in order to get that, in order to really utilize that, I have to respect those white areas, all these blown out areas throughout the whole painting. Oh, thank you so much, Krista. I appreciate you. Krista says, not bored, just listening to you. I appreciate it. And you're making cookies. So, that's awesome. So we need to respect those white areas and keep them clear of any paint, especially darker paint, even on the edges here. I want to kind of sneak up on it a little bit, I want to keep all these edges soft when I do this drawing. I want to keep everything away from those white areas. It's going to be difficult because I do have to put lines down there. So what I'm thinking about doing is when I'm drawing this out, I'm going to use probably a lighter paint. That way, if it does sneak into those lighter areas, hey, David, welcome. If it does sneak into those lighter areas that I want to keep just paper on most of it, it won't be too harsh. It won't have like an extreme contrast, okay? And don't worry, I'll get my reference up on here now, and we're going to start working on the drawing of this. I do have to move my camera though. Give me 1 second. Okay. I'm so glad I did that because I accidentally had it on 4K and it was about to overheat, which would have just stopped this stream in its tracks. Okay. Let's get this. Oh, that's way too big. I was working on a bigger painting previously, and I had more room on that side. I think what I need to do is get this a little bit closer and move it over a little bit more. Yeah, I should have got this ready beforehand, but sorry. Hello, Chris. Hello, Vincent. Oh, I actually closed the door because he was like right up in my face before the stream. I'm like, God, dude, I have to focus. I gave him a snack though. Okay. Hi, Michael. Welcome. Okay, you guys are witnessing like all of it. You know, talk about being completely vulnerable, like on a stream, and not trying to be too like perfect with everything. That's what's happening right now. Let me get the reference up. Oop, it's huge. That's fine. I do love OBS. If you guys are ever wondering, everything that I use for streaming, if you're ever interested in doing this, I'll give you all the information. Not proprietary. You know, I'm the kind of person that's of this mind that there is an abundance of people and opportunity and stuff out there. And so I'm not going to hide anything. You know, it's okay if you want to stream exactly like I do and take my thoughts and ideas and expand upon them within your own videos and streaming and stuff like that. Go for it. Whatever. I'm sure there's some nefarious ways people can do that, but I'm not going to worry about it. It's okay. It's not going to be just like me. Okay, so we got the reference. We got the everything up. I think that's pretty good. Next time you know what? I'm probably going to move this down a bit. Just move my paper down just a little bit. And the one thing I don't like is that shadow over here. But it'll be okay. It's not gonna be a big deal, Chris. Let's go for it. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, stop talking, start painting. This is not going to be an easy drawing, let me tell you. And just technical concerns, like that reference, I did crop it down to a 6:9 ratio. This is 6:9 sheet of paper. So that's important for me to make sure that the ratio of my reference and my painting is exact. That's going to help us draw things a bit better. And like I said, I'm going to go for, it's been days. It's been days and all this is pretty dry. Big chunks of paint. I'm going to go for a very light value here, something closer to yellow to draw things out with. Okay, so yeah. And we should be able to see, yeah, you can see that just fine. I mean, look how light that looks on the gray versus on this white here. Like that value change is so interesting. But I always prefer a gray palette. I don't know why. I could easily switch out the paper behind here to make it white and have a greater transition with our beginning strokes, but subsequent strokes, when we get into layering the paint, it's not going to be helpful anymore. So, you know, I know I'm going to be off a little bit with the beginning strokes, and I hate to cover up the paw prints from my kittens that stepped on this paper while it was still drying. That was LaFay. She's always wanting to get in the garage. Okay. Drawing this out. I don't want to get too crazy with this drawing, okay? I don't want to sit here and like be very specific and perfect with it. The first thing I'm going to do is establish the bigger shapes, okay? Whenever we're drawing, we're thinking big, 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 like bigger ideas. Like I'm not going to be looking at where the eyes are, the glasses are, anything like that. Where I want is like this big shape of the head, the big shape of the hands here. And if I can get those bigger ideas to start and end, to have the height and width that they need, that's pretty darn close. All of those details inside of it will just kind of fall within. Like even that right there, where I come down and I go into the bottom of the ear, you know, that could be in a completely wrong place. It's a detail that's unnecessary right now. But, you know, I always got big butts on this this stream, and you're welcome for that. Wow. Okay. Big butts, Chris. Good job. Now I can't think. But we do need to establish something. We have to put something down in order to respond to it. So we have to put some idea of where we think things are in order to make corrections. If we don't have anything down, how are we going to respond to it? How are we going to make corrections? So let's prepare for that by using straight, light lines, just a little bit of paint, not a lot going on, easy to correct. I'm on paper that is very non-absorbent, and I could scrape these lines off if I want. And this is a complex image. It is complex. It's got two hands and a face. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's going to be challenging. It could be like the previous couple paintings where I did have problems with the drawing, which was great. You know what was great about that? Is I remember why I had issues with those drawings. And guess what? I'm going to prepare for that right now. What was the big problem with those drawings, Chris? Why did you have trouble with those drawings? Well, as I take a drink, my idea of creating a little bit of suspense. The reason why I had trouble with those drawings is because the established big shapes I did not check. See, okay, you can maybe see this. I got a head shape. Okay, I got kind of an ear shape there, right? I got a hand shape. You know how big that is? That's just big, general. It doesn't even describe anything, just kind of the whole mitten of this hand that ends somewhere, this one that ends somewhere, just big ideas. But here's what I can look at. I want to see, let's look at the simple things first, like where this hand crosses down out of the picture plane. Let's get a little bit more exact. Because I have this down now I can make specific changes. It needs to be here, come up at this angle, and maybe in there, okay? And look, I can use that as an eraser. Use my palette knife. Yes, that's the name for that thing. Good job, Chris. You remembered the name of it. So that's where the wrist starts. And then this line, where the side of the wrist is here, it's definitely far to the right of center. So I can look at the center. We were talking about drawing in the last video I did was the painter's path, where I started the drawing course. Thank you, Krista, for signing up. Gosh, it's so awesome. And I was talking about it's easier to judge halves, like to split lines in half, to split the height of this in half. It's easier for us to do that than to look at 1/3, 8/16 or something like that. So looking at the relationship of half here, knowing that that's a bit far over, and then taking a guess for it. So I think it's pretty close to where I have it. And that moves up at that angle. The next thing I'm going to do, the height of that hand there. So where it ends, and you can see on my reference here, okay? Like if I were to put my brush halfway on that reference between the top and the bottom, I would say it'd be about right there. So the fingers end a little bit above that. So over here on my painting, I'm going to look at it like this. I'm going to squint and say that this is halfway. That little mark I made. Okay, you scoot over the shadow. And I can check this. I can check the half really easily by taking a measurement with my brush here. You see that? And then there. Oh, and it's too far up. Probably about right there then is the actual halfway. A little bit further down, just a tiny bit. So there's actual halfway. And that's close enough. Trying to erase what I had down. So that's halfway. Super important to do this to get, a beginning understanding of placement with all these bigger shapes. And then I can take that and move it over to this side as well. I can even do halfway here. Test it. Ooh, I got that one right on instantly. And then put it up here as well. Right there. So now I got these little quadrants that I created. And so when I look at the reference, I look and see this is halfway and the fingers are a little bit, they end a little bit above that. And they actually come in a bit further. So probably about right there. Measurement. Measurement. Oh my gosh, it gets kind of boring sometimes when we have to measure, when we have to go into a painting. And I hear this from artists all the time that, you know, we dislike drawing. Why do we dislike drawing? Drawing is the most direct thing to our insecurities and our inaccuracies, and it will tell you instantly what you're doing wrong. Right away, it's going to say, yeah, that's not right. It doesn't look good, especially when you're doing figures, because we can tell. We know, we've seen hands a million times. We've seen faces a million times, and we have this perfect eye for them. Drawing is hard because it lays all of our issues to bear instantly. And if we're not used to looking at our shortcomings and being, okay, I understand this, I know that I need to work on that and seeing it as challenges, it's hard to really do it. It's like, oh, that drawing is so bad. Like right away, it's just not so good. And that's okay. It's okay. Because we can move through this. We can say, okay, it's not so bad now, but I'm going to take my time. You can see I'm moving pretty slow on this. And like I said, the reason why I'm moving slow, I didn't say it, but I know the trouble that I had on the previous paintings was because I didn't take my time in this initial step and establish this drawing. The bigger shapes a lot larger. Or the bigger shapes a lot more accurately. Is it going to be perfect? No, I'm not going to have a perfect drawing here. Is it going to be close enough to where I can look at it and I can say, that feels pretty good and it's accurate enough? I hope so. I think it will I can get that close to it. Now, I'm pretty much eyeballing all of this right now, this hand here. Now, I didn't do much measurement. I feel like if I get this height of this hand, where the fingers end from the bottom and then the width of it, which I feel pretty good about, then I'll get like 90% there, 80% there, maybe 70. I'm going to go down in percentages. The more I see it, the more I think about it. Always thinking, remember at the very beginning, I talked about keeping paint out of those bright areas, okay? We got hours on this to scrape that off if it gets too close to those super light areas. And that's why I'm using this light paint. So I wanted to repeat that. So I got that hand in, and it's looking pretty darn good, okay? I'm pretty happy with it. Now, the next thing we want to do, once you've established something, and it's kind of like, you know, I've already been doing this right here. I started down here with where this edge of the wrist went out of the picture plane. That was like the most simple, easiest line that I could put down. And then the next thing I did was kind of continue on with that, get like this bigger height here, but I'm staying within this area, okay? And I really feel like this needs to come closer to the edge there now that I look at it, because we have a change in those knuckles. Now, the one thing that I know, most of us will do this, oh, I just put my finger in the paint, is whenever we see a curve on the body, whenever we see like this very slight curve, we're going to make it a little bit stronger than it needs to be. So I like to really simplify everything down into straight lines. And that's always helpful. Straight lines are easier to judge than curved lines, okay? So starting where we know something simple and then staying with that, okay, and moving through that, utilizing what you think is close, and then moving from that out to the rest of the picture. Like I wouldn't go from here all the way over to the ear. The ear is like out in unknown space. If I can move from something that's close, something that I feel is on, that's correct, then I can utilize that correctness to get other things. So the next place I'm going to go is right where these fingers touch her cheek. Okay. And then move up through there. And then, I'm not going to worry about the glasses yet. I'm just thinking about the simplification of this side of the head. From the brow line, which is up here, and a straight angle down to that cheek. Now, there's a whole eye socket within there where this brow line kind of goes into the head. It goes to the left a bit, but I'm going to just straighten that out for right now. Again, bigger shapes first, bigger shapes. We can get all those little minimal curves and small ideas a little bit later. We'll work into it. We're utilizing the fact that oil paint is going to stay wet for us and malleable for a while because I'm on a non-absorbent surface. It's not going to soak into the paper and just be captured instantly. It's going to give us some time to adjust. Okay. It's no different than if I was working with graphite. And a lot of times I do that. And that's a good question. Why am I not just working this in graphite? Well, I learned that when trying to keep these white areas as white as the paper, keep them free of paint and anything, the worst thing is when graphite accidentally gets into those white areas on this paper. I mean, I just had to paint over it with white, and I don't want to do that. I want this to be just the white of the paper and to try and get that transparent glow that you can get with utilizing very thin paint on white paper. So that could probably go up a little bit. I'm looking at the change in where the forehead ends and the hair begins. Very simple. Trying not to be shaky. Here's a pro tip. Pro tip, guys. And it's a random one. I kid you not. It's so random. Don't do arm exercises before you start painting. Always try to work out in the morning. Do something to get my body woken up, to get, the blood flowing, to get the brain working along with my body. And today I was like, yeah, let's do movements. Let's do, push-ups and, weight things. And oh my gosh, I'm like so shaky right now. Yeah, not a good thing. And I knew this before. I just forgot about it. I was just thinking movements today. Yeah, it's definitely harder to draw after you've worked your muscles like that. So, yeah. Okay. See, this is awesome. Not only am I working on this drawing, but I'm also training the exactness of how I use my palette knife. There's so much training going on with me right now. You guys just don't even know how to speak about all this stuff and paint at the same time, staying focused and talking at the same time. It's one thing I love about this stream. Not only the connection, the relationship that we can build here while you're listening to me, but in that connection, but trying to be a better teacher, understanding, the better words to use, not necessarily the right words. And I think where I have that brow line. It needs to be like down there, just a little bit further down. No, maybe more, like right there. You see how slowly I'm working on this? That's the great thing about streams. You know, yes, it's boring. You're watching people paint. You're watching some guy just sitting here putting down one stroke every few seconds. It's not a time lapse. It's the reality of the process. And for me, it's exciting as heck because, you know, I'm trying to get the thing right on. And if I don't, I have to correct it. And so all this is going on in my head. But for you guys, you're witnessing the process that I will always agree that can be very boring. It can be. And this is another reason why my ability to talk constantly, I think, is helping the stream. But what I like about this whole process is YouTube and videos in general, especially the way, you know, we go to the short kind of shorts, you know, and very quick content, you know, the dopamine hits that we constantly need now. I think we need a lot more people to help us slow down and to understand, like, hey, yeah, wow, well, this painting takes Chris that long. I think it's okay if it takes me that long. We have a little bit less understanding. Like, even when I watch like Nicholas Uribe's videos, which I love him, not like that. I love his artwork. And a lot of them are time lapsed. I forget. Like the 20 minutes used to be 3 or 4 hours. You know, and that transition, that change between them, and it really affects our brain. So I like this idea of, like, yes, it's a little bit boring. Yes, it takes some focus. Yes, you can totally do something else while you're listening and kind of duck in every now and then and see, you know, where Chris is on the painting. And that's fantastic. Yeah, doing that is good. But to understand fully, a little bit more closely, that the painting process isn't this time-lapse thing all the time. It does take some effort. It does take some patience in regaining that. So I moved up this whole line, the side of the head. Is it close? It's pretty close. It's not on exactly. And now I'm moving to the left side. It could be, I could move through the face here and think about these bigger shapes within here and then use that to get to the left side of the head. That's probably a better way of doing this. I move to the left side of the head, and which is out in the middle of nowhere, okay? But I've spent the time to establish, like, where the brow line here is going to begin. You know, when we think about heads, think about brow line, eye line, the bottom of the nose, the mouth line, and the chin line, which will almost always line up perfectly with each other. They will be parallel to each other. But major landmarks that we can kind of attach to that are generalized enough that they're not so specific that, you know, we start getting into canon of body proportions, which, you know, don't work most of the time. But I feel like that eye line is a little bit off. I really do. So what I'm going to do on the reference is I'm going to compare how many times from the top of the picture plane to that eye line, that brow line, how many of those fit within here? 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Okay, let's check it on the reference. You're not seeing this because my reference is off the edge of the picture plane. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yeah, it's about 4.5. Okay, that feels good then. So I checked that. I'm pretty close. Now I just need to do this angle of the brow line. This, like, you see that major shape? Like, stop thinking of this. Let me see if I can move this around, make it bigger. Oops, I need to set that up. Okay, hold on. I want to zoom in. Just drop my napkin. I'm dropping everything. Oh my gosh. Just don't get paint anywhere else. Like on my desk right now. Okay. Wait, where's my reference? Oh, it's turned off. And it's huge here as well. Let's make this smaller and move it over. I like this view because I can, I'll cover up my palette for a little bit, but I'll give us a bigger view of this reference. I mean, I could open this up in Photoshop and draw on top of it, probably be a better indication of what's happening. Let me cover up that on the left. There we go. You rock, OBS. Okay. So right up here, you'll see where the brow line is, that little kind of jutting out of where it becomes from forehead to eye socket. There's that transition. Now, if we stop thinking about this as eyes, glasses, the top of a nose, and we just look at that shadow shape there, that is what we're going to look for. And I really need to bring this in a photo program, Photoshop. I don't like using Photoshop. I don't like what Adobe's been doing lately, but it's what I have right now. So we're going to deal with Photoshop. And I'm going to show my screen in a second. Just a second. Okay. Screen. So, when I bought this tablet, there's for only $45, but it's over there and I need to figure out a better place to put it so I can work on this. Okay. Yeah. Let's do a black line. It'll be fine. So this is that point on the brow line, right? It's going to be very dirty, okay, to do this that I was talking about. Now, thinking about this shape here, I mean, I don't even have to go into that much specificity for it, but look at this shadow shape. I want you guys to see this. The most important thing, one of the most important things about art is seeing the simplicity. I can even get into like this shape if I want, because we're just looking at this whole shadow shape. We don't have to get this detailed, although I am. And I love this. Look at like the top of the lip here, like that shape of the light area. The bottom lip here, and I'm using a very chunky brush. Look at that. Look at that shape. Okay, we can even cut it off here, right? And then, we could probably fill that in. But if we can get that shape correct, everything else with inside that is going to be so much easier. And then we can even simplify that even further. So if I go brow here, okay, and then straight over to where the other one is, bam, look at this. Like we have the most important angle for this entire head. Let's do it here on the eye line. Bam. You see how similar those are? Let's do it for the nose. So base of the right nostril or left nostril there. Very similar. This side of the mouth to that side. Of course, you can't see that black line. And I can't really see the chin, but if I were to guess, it's going to be the exact same angle as all of those. Hopefully you see that. Hopefully you see how similar all those angles are. Like I could move it around. Look, that is the exact same angles. If we know the brow angle, then we have the angles of the eyes, we have the angles underneath the nose, the mouth, and the chin. This is the front of the face. Think about it as the front of a box, right? If we have those angles, then we just worry about distance. We're worried about where, the top of the brow is to, let me go back to this. So top of the brow. Oh, I need to make a smaller thing. Let me zoom in. This will probably be helpful, especially people on smaller screens, Chris. So this distance here, like how big that is, and then this distance here, right? See how we can kind of simplify moving through these things? That distance, and then this distance. We know the angles, just those distances. And so that's how I'm going to move through this head. And what's great about this, what I love about these two landmarks that we'll see on everybody, and this one is going to be very difficult to understand because there's not a lot of information up here. It's all blown out to show here's the top of the forehead, right? And then we go to the side of the head here. So front of the head, then side of the head. But there's that transition. And these 2 points are really important because we'll go back into space for the eye socket. We'll come up forward here and then down into the chin like that. And that is the establishment of the front of the head, and I can even go up into the forehead like this, which will curve back. That's the establishment of the front of the head versus the side of the head, which is so important for understanding form. That's something we'll get definitely into with the drawing course that I'm doing as part of streams every single Sunday. And those will go into Painter's Path and all that other stuff. But that's how I'm going to move through this. So let's go back to the painting. If you guys have any more questions about that, would love to show you even further. What time is it? 10:39. Okay. Are we going to finish this drawing today? Probably not. But we've established a lot of really good stuff so far. I feel like every time I look at this line, it feels like it's too far up. Even though I measured it, it feels too far up. I feel like I should have more space here. Do you guys feel that? Like maybe it should come down. You know what? I'm going to trust myself. I am going to trust myself. And I'm going to just move this down just a smidge. So this is going to be the new brow line. Yeah, definitely. Now, when I was showing you on the Photoshop document, that point over to this point, we're going to establish where that point is. And we know halfway in between the picture plane is right here. I think it might be pretty close. I think it's exact. So that's where it's going to end. We got the whole brow line. Okay. That's going to be major. And the more I'm doing this, the more I'm like, oh man, I think I want to use Photoshop to check my drawing after this, which isn't too hard to do. I like showing that. Now the next major shape, that shadow shape that I was talking about, I'm thinking about the top of the bridge of that nose where it makes a point within the shadow shape. I know it's below, like horizontally, it's below the brow angle there, but not much, probably about right there, I would say. It's definitely to the left of this finger here. So probably right there. You see how I'm triangulate? I'm trying to triangulate certain points of this drawing with everything else that I've established. So we can do that there. And then the bridge of the nose down this way. And I can check that angle. Looks good. And we're back to the beginning, like the finger that we've established, the ends of those fingers. We can use what we had before, the fingers there, to inform everything else. And as soon as I do this, as soon as I look at where that nose ends, where this finger ends, and that finger ends, I have this space here. And I know right away that these lines that I created in the beginning for this hand is way too high. It needs to come down. Using what we put down, trusting what we put down, trusting ourselves. We can correct later the more information we put on here. This is the nose line. It's going to be the same angle as our brow line. It's going to be right there. Okay. Taking my time. Now the eye line. We've already established that it's all the same angle. So I'm going to put just a hint of the eye there. I got lucky on this image because her eyes are kind of closed. So it's going to be a lot easier to, I mean, there's not a ton of information there, right? A lot easier to establish what the eye looks like. And that needs to come down just a little bit more. Yeah, right there. And then we can take this angle of the brow line, just drop it down. This is where this other eye is going to be on that same exact angle. It's going to be a little bit larger because it's closer to us. We can see a little bit more of it. So right there, I think, still, I mean, this is drawing. It's guessing. We're guessing all the time. We're like, I think this is here and I think that's there. And that's part of it. It's a wonderful game. And the more we do it, the more we guess and check, find ways to measure so we can check. It's going to be a wonderful thing to talk about within the drawing course for painters that I have going. How we try it first, we test it, and then we make corrections. How important that is for training our drawing. Can't wait to get into that. Try, test, correct. So we're trying it now. Getting some understanding. Okay, the top of the upper lip here. And then I have the height of that lip, the space in the mouth. And then through all of those lines, I can create from the corner of the mouth to the other corner of the mouth. I have to make sure that that angle is exactly like the brow line, the nose line, the eye line. Right there. That's my guess on it. That's my guess. Now we're going to move to the other side of the head. We're going to try and work our way over there. You see how I'm kind of leaping through things that I'm getting close to. And the closer that I get to understanding more and more and more, like building more and more and more, like we're building off of what we used before, I could get all the way over to the side of this head, which it's going to feel like, it's already feeling like it's going too far to the left. I could get all the way over to this left side of the head and say, I made everything too big. And then what do we do there? What do we do there? We either decide to go with it. We say, okay, it's too big, but it's relatively good within itself and just deal with it like that. Or we erase and start over. And it's our decision to do that. Welcome, Cookie Monster. Hi, Chris. GTCU. Do you think you need patience to paint? Oh, yes. Good to see you. Oh, I just got the good to see you. Oh, good. I hate to answer that with yes or no question, but yeah, 100% yes. Patience is, words are important. And second guessing, or not second guessing, what's the word I'm looking for here? The words that I'm looking for here. So let me explain this a little bit. I think it's very healthy for all of us to have opinions and to always test those opinions. Oh, you continue. You say, or Cookie says, or does it come down more to perseverance? Ooh, now we're getting into some cool stuff. My initial knee-jerk reaction is yes, you definitely need patience. But the one thing I love about this art thing is how universally infinite it can be, right? And when I say that, here's a rule, patience is necessary, that's a perfect opportunity for Cookie to go, you know what? I'm going to paint without patience and it's going to be beautiful. And it most likely will be. That's a possibility. So there's contradictory answers to everything we can do in art. And it's I know that we can work hard to reduce art into this like smaller hemisphere that is our lives and how we like to paint. And it's fantastic because we figure out who we are and we do this and we do it a certain way and we love doing it this way. But I always have to, when I'm on here and I'm trying to connect and trying to pick the words that not matter the most, but are a bit more accurate. You know, I have 10,000 subscribers and I take that very seriously. The last thing I want to do is like spout off a bunch of stuff that later on I'm like, wow, that was really bad. I should have never said that. So I have to think about it. My initial jerk reaction is, yes, you definitely need patience. But then I'm thinking, was Van Gogh patient? I don't think Van Gogh was patient at all. I think he was impulsive. I think the paintings that he had shows that impulsivity and that like drive for just expression, you know, any way that he could, just getting the energy out. Like there's so much energy in those paintings. So patience there? I don't think so. I don't think we could say Van Gogh was patient. Perseverance with Van Gogh? Oh, heck yeah. Hard work ethic, like a deep passion? Yes. But patience? No, I don't think. Like the way I'm painting here, like I definitely need patience. Like I need to patiently move through something. And then if it's wrong, you know, as far as the drawing, blah, 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 you know, I'm like, okay, you know, give myself some empathy. I screwed up on that drawing. Let's redo it. Let's start over. Let's, you know, whatever we need to do to get it back to where I feel it needs to be. Just like here, you know, this is where I'm pretty sure the top of that ear should be as far as left to right placement. And I feel like it's too far over compared with the reference. And so I'm going to have to I'm going to go ahead and put it down. It may be way off. I'm going to go ahead and put it down and then maybe undo it. So I have to have patience with myself within that. If I said anything about patience, like in the process, I think you can be impulsive. I think you could be excited. I think you can be patient. I think you can be anything you want to be in the process. I think maybe where it's more important is we bring patience to ourselves, you know. Yeah, Van Gogh was very determined, Cookie. Very interested to hear your thoughts, Chris. It makes sense. Perseverance, I think, it's something that can come along with both. We could have it or not have it. And I think it's separate. It could be separate from patience. We can be impulsive and persevere. And both patience and perseverance speaks more to me about, you know, the harder part of art where we're dealing with our own shortcomings. Like I suck at drawing. I'm not that good at drawing. I'm always having to work in my drawing, like always thinking about it, always taking my time. The way that I move through that process is through patience to try and get better, you know, moving slowly, being patient with corrections. Like the last painting that took 13 days to complete or 14 days, you know, having to say, okay, it's fine, Chris, be patient with yourself because this painting needed that time. So in a like more personal thing, like patience with where we're at and where we're going, trying to figure out all of that and be patient with that process. And if getting better or to the place that we want takes longer than other people we look at, just to have patience for ourselves. I think that's where patience is probably the most important. Figuring out your process, whether it uses patience or not, our impulsivity or not. And then persevering through, it could be months of paintings that don't look good, that you're not happy with, persevering through that and saying it's okay and have patience with yourself within that. I think that's where it really comes in, because we're all going to face that. I mean, I hope we all face that. Oof, there's a statement. I hope we all face trials, tribulations, and difficulty within this art process. Why are you doing that, Chris? Why are you telling me that you want me to face difficulties within this art process? Because that's where we grow. That's where we get better. I want it to be so hard for people that they're really upset and they're crying and it's like deep within them, difficult, and then get past that. So the addition of that is to be able to move past that, because on the other end of those very difficult things is where we grow the most. So I hope for you guys that difficulty. How dare you, Chris? How dare you be such a jerk? It's because I care about you. I care about the artists that are listening to me. I know it seems weird in this day and age, you know, where people are just putting out junk just to get subscribers. I mean, but no, I want you to suffer. I think if Van Gogh did not suffer through all of his processes, I don't think his paintings could exist the way they exist now. I think it would be a different artist, right? All the artists that we see great suffering and non-suffering, right? I think, you know, they needed to move through that process to be able to make the artwork that they made. Now, I never would wish on anybody that they never get through that suffering and come out on it on the end of it in positivity, in a positive way. Like, that's the important caveat to that statement, is not only do I wish the difficulties to challenge you, but I also wish for you to be able to come out on the other end of those difficulties and have learned and grown as an artist and a person, definitely. And that's where the perseverance and the patience, the empathy for ourselves really comes in. Yeah. The process, up to you. I think you'll have to persevere through just about anything if it's worthwhile, honestly. And patience, it depends. So Travel Seeker says, in my opinion, patience and perseverance are deeply intertwined, and I've come to realize that the greatest challenge in painting isn't technique or knowledge, it's mental endurance. Yes, that's exactly what I was saying. We're like connected there, man. Oh, so good. Yes. You see how, like, when we start talking about these things, and it happens with the friend artists that I meet on Sundays, you know, online. Yeah, we could talk about technical stuff all day long, but at the end of the day, like, what really makes a difference between success and moving through this thing is where we get into all this kind of personal development, right? Where we're talking about emotion and things with our brain on how to deal with problems and ourselves and empathy and everything else. I'm going to have to definitely check this drawing on because it's off. It feels off. It doesn't feel good. I'm definitely going to have to check this drawing and do it better. The painting is worth it to get it closer. It's very, very worth it for me to get it closer. So we're going to have to use some tools to check it. I think the important part of that, changing subject here, is whatever tools we use, try it first, grow first, do it bad first, and then check, and then check. And especially don't use any AI bullshit. Excuse my language, but it's getting to the point, and you know, it's getting to the point on that where it's becoming a huge, huge problem. I'd like to avoid a lot of difficult topics, but that's one that I feel strongly about. I got an email just today, and it was so terrible. It was so terrible. There was a person, you know, with some kind of technology, right? Some kind of generative BS technology. And they're like, hey, we do things for 3D and games. And we looked at your website and we thought you would be perfect. And I was like, what? You know, because they wanted me to sponsor them on something. It was generative technology. My response was, not only did you not look at my website, but you have no idea what I do. Stop spamming people and abandon your AI slop program. Ooh, I was mad about it, and definitely let them know. It was very opinionated. And I know there's going to be people out there that feel differently and strongly about it, and that's okay. But man, I was like, oh, the worst spam ever. Okay. We're at a point on this. Let's get back to the important part, the process of the painting and patience and endurance. Okay, here's what I'm going to do, because I get an hour before I have to go to someone's house and help them with their computer because I'm being nice. But I want to show you this. I want to show you this because I've shown you before, but I like repeating stuff because we don't know who's going to be on here. So I'm going to use my cell phone to take a photo of what I've drawn. Okay. Photo taken. Usually what I do, I need to do this as well. I know on iPhones, they have this thing where you can, that's so blurry, but you can change the exposure. I always go down like to negative 1.0. Something with iPhones, man, they overexpose everything. And that's the problem with phones in general. And usually I want to use the number 2 lens because it's closer to a different focal length, so there's less distortion. So I did that, took those pictures. Now I'm using Google Photos to upload this to the cloud, and then I'm going to bring them down. And I'm going to get back to my screen just in a moment. I'm just describing what I'm doing. So I took a photo. It uploaded to Google Photos. Okay. And let me change. I turned off the information that showed my location on exactly. So that's the first photo I took. Here's the second one. You see it's a bit darker. That's intentional. And this is with the better lens. So I'm going to go Shift D to download this into projects. This project here and save that image down. And now there's our image. Okay. So I've downloaded it as a JPEG. Okay. 0. Now let's back it up. And then I'm going to open it up in Photoshop. This image here. That's maybe a bit too dark. I did make it too dark. Control Shift A will get us into the camera raw feature in Photoshop, and that way I can bring up the contrast and exposure. Okay. And then also I'm going to go to this icon over here. What is it called? Geometry. I'm going to go to geometry, and then there's one that's called guided geometry in Photoshop. I'm not trying to sell Photoshop to you guys. Please don't go out and buy Photoshop. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I have problems with Adobe, but they have a stranglehold on the market and they make a terrible product most of the time. So we're going to straighten up this image is the next thing. So I'm going to go from corner to corner of this image with these guides. And you can see how when I let go of each guide, it's going to straighten out and make these corners square. It's distorting the image a little bit, okay? But it's getting rid of all that accidental perspective when taking the photo of the painting. And then I can go into my crop tool with C, change its ratio to 6:9, okay? And this is important because what I'll do is make sure that the image after we've adjusted it has the same ratio. Why are you doing all this, Chris? Why, what the heck is going on? You know, I don't explain why most of the time, but it's important. Okay, the ratio is pretty close. So before I can compare this image that I took on my cell phone with the actual photo, I first have to straighten this image out so it has zero perspective to it. It's completely flat. The corners are as close to square as possible. Remove all distortion, or else the comparison isn't going to be exact. So I'm going to hit Control A, Control C to copy this whole image, and then I'm going to paste it right over top. Bam. And now it's small. Here, what I can do here is I can Control T to transform this image, make it just, I'm going to zoom in as well so you guys can see better, so I can see better. And I'm going to take this image, our paper, all the way to the edge of the canvas and try and get it situated perfectly in there. It's kind of hard to see because it just disappears when I go out of the side. So trying to get it as close as I can. Okay, so that's pretty close. It's not an exact science, okay? So I can do this guy. I can turn it on and off. And you're like, that's not too bad. There's some things that are off, and I don't feel too bad about that. But let's get a little bit more exact, okay? I'm created a new layer. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with some points. And the cool thing about Photoshop is you can put down like a point with your brush and then hold shift and you can draw lines like really quickly. It's like straight lines. I don't care about all this crazy detail. I'm still thinking about the bigger shapes here. Okay, bigger shapes. Contour. You see how I just straighten out all these lines? Here to here to here to here. And this is how we draw, I think, one of the best ways to draw things out to get, and I could probably break that one up a little bit more. Oops. There to there, there. So when I'm drawing something, I'm using these straight lines all the time. And I'm not going to go deep into the specifics of these fingers. I'm going to turn this hand into a big mitten. Mitten. For some reason, saying that word mitten just doesn't really want to roll off the tongue. Okay. Big hand shape. Big hand shape. I could get in here and just outline this thing so perfectly, but that's unnecessary. I want the big shapes on, okay? I'm also going to indicate that this eye here and its shape and where it's at, like the major landmarks, okay? The end of the nose, the wings of the nose there. Oops, probably break this one up a little bit more. The bridge of the nose, so important. You see, I'm ignoring the glasses. I don't care about the glasses. If I get the head correct, if I get the head shape correct, the glasses just fit on top of that. So don't need to worry about it. Let's get the shape of the mouth. Just an indication of the top lip. And that's all I need. Now watch this. I drew that on a second layer, and now let's put our actual drawing underneath of it. Not too bad. Pretty darn close. Oh, you see, I brought that eye line down. It was correct the way I had it before. Oh, jeez. It was correct. That's okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually export this image out. And, oh, actually, before I do that, I'm going to change the opacity of this layer so it's a little bit lighter. Okay. Let's export this out to right here. Let me see. Drawing fixes. I know, it's my weird way of doing things. Okay. And then what I can do is go back to here. and I can change my reference. Or should I even do that? Yeah, let's change it. I'm going to go to art, this screen, and I'm going to change my reference to what we just saved, the corrections. So I can do like, we can do a comparison on stream, right? You could adjust the opacity. Yeah, I could totally do that too. Just like bring the opacity down. I like doing the lines too. It feels like it's, you know, it can really give you a little bit more exactness to it. I could have done the chin there where the chin ends, but not too bad. I'm pretty happy with that. There's some things that I want to adjust to get closer, but I feel pretty good about it. Yeah. Hi, Chris. Welcome. Nice to see you too. I'm really happy with like that very first line that I made at the bottom right, like this one. Let me see, this one down here, right where the wrist goes out of. Yeah, right there. It's like exactly on the shape of that hand. I brought it out a little bit more at those knuckles, but I need to come out a little bit more than that. That finger is a little bit, the small finger is a little bit too, or the pinky finger. The nose needs to come to the right. That's probably the biggest thing that's off, is the bridge of that nose and the angle of it. How far out the shape of the head on this side is. And then I screwed up on the exact placement for that, for the brow line. But look at the neck over here. Got that neckline on. Got the ear a little bit close, needs to make it a little bit bigger. But with this, look at all the corrections that I can make like right away. But the important thing about this, guys, the important thing about doing this is I drew it first. I drew it first and I made all these guesses, which is so important, super important, because now I have like that understanding. Now I've tried it, I'm testing it, and now I'm going to correct it. Have to move to try, test, correct. I'll talk about that more within the drawing course that I'm building. Krista says, I don't have any Photoshops. Would you say that after we get the line in that we could use tracing paper to see how off? Or yes, that's a great idea, because you know there always has to be some kind of like practical non-digital way of doing this. Yeah, I mean, tracing paper would be like the best thing. Of course, you'd have to, the thing with that, like if you are using tracing paper, like you would have your drawing you're working from right next to this drawing, just kind of like within the drawing course that we're doing, right? You use tracing paper on your reference, which is the exact same size and ratio as your drawing, okay? That's really important. It has to be printed out at the exact same size, which could be very difficult if you're working with a very big painting. You trace on the tracing paper like very, just like the lines we have on here, not super detailed, just generalized lines for general placement, okay? Because tracing paper isn't going to allow you to get very specific, okay? And then you overlay that on your drawing and to see where you're off and make changes. And even if your paint is wet and you put paper over this, it's not going to move it around that much, okay? And then you can make some adjustments that way. A lot of things you can do, I mean, especially, I don't have that ability here because I'm working on an iPad, but even just using site size, like if I had an iPad or the printed version of this image, the exact same size and right next to it, like to the left of it, like exact same size image, then you can use site size. That really helps with placement. It's very good. The more accurate, the better, I think. Yeah. The more accurate you can get it, because I did this in the past, and I kid you not, I would go into with these lines over here, like the super specifics on every single thing, because I needed it at that point. I really needed to have that specificity with the overlay drawing in order to understand. But the more I've moved away from it and just use it for checking, the less I need, So, and that's part of the drawing course that I'm doing. It's all about utilizing these tools to help you, but making sure that you're also training yourself so you need them less and less and less. And that's really important. Because you did the gridding method to train the brain. Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah. It really helps with using grids to literally train your brain, okay? Because what is drawing accuracy? When we think about drawing accuracy or drawing accurately, okay, we think about width, height, and as I'm doing something else, I'm trying to open up that image in Procreate on my iPad. To draw something accurately, you need to place those lines in the right place. And that takes just the ability to judge widths and heights accurately and angles accurately. And we can use tools to help us out with that. So basically, we just train our intuition with width, height, length, all of these things. First steps is very important to keep the proportions. Yes, exactly. Think big shapes. I'm always going to talk about big shapes at the beginning. If we get deep into like this, all the little minutia within this eye here, and then we get that done and we're really happy with that eye. And then by the time we get over here to the ear, we're like, holy crap, the ear's off the page. All that time we worked on that eye is for naught. We have to erase the whole thing. Put as little lines down as you can to understand the whole of the image, to get the whole of the image correct or accurate before getting into the details. Because as soon as you have the bigness, these bigger ideas down, the minutia will fall into place. Those little small things will fall into place. So I'm utilizing, I have to my left here, the image. I'm going to go back here. Okay. So you can see to my left, I got my iPad right over here, and I have that corrected lines on top of our painting again. And I don't feel like I need that perfect horizontal line all the way over now. I just want the 2 points of where the brow ends on either side of her head. Those are probably the two most important, well, very important. I say most important all the time. You guys know this. Everything's most important. Super important landmarks right there on your brow. Like you can put your fingers here. I have this like Cro-Magnon brow, like definitely Paleolithic. Let's get that perfect shadow in here. I'll take off my glasses. Look at this thing. Ooh. I'm going to end up painting my face if I hold that brush. Look at this right here. You see that bone? It's like, there's the front. Yeah, it's kind of curving back a little bit, but look at that sharp line. Front of the head, side of the head, right here. That, like, touch your head right now. I'm going to make everybody touch their heads. Super important. Hey, Omar, welcome. Super important. This defines the front of the forehead that goes, like, kind of swooshes back. Goes all the way to the top of the head, way back here. This definition here. And then we get to eye socket and the front of the face. You see that? See this? Wait, it's on this side. See the shadow? See that? That's front of the face, side of the face. Okay. I have a very defined one, front of the face all the way down there. But these landmarks are so important right here. Gives you just about everything on the head. It's the best way to see the form on the head, in my opinion. Like very, very fast. Sounds good. Thank you. First steps. Okay. Hey, Chris. Yeah. Hey, Chris. Our time next Sunday. Yay! Fantastic. I'm sure I got the email from that. Thank you so much, Omar. Krista says, just did. Yay. We got to touch our heads. I mean, we are humans. We're drawing humans. Guess what? We could use ourselves to help us out. It's so fantastic. I found out something that the Terminator area gets bigger as long as the figure moves. Oh, that's really interesting. That's one thing I've never dealt with is like movement. Like everything is static here. Like all this static idea. And especially, working within comic books and, there's a lot of movement within there. So it's another like aspect of art that honestly, I've never dealt with. It'd be interesting to find information about that, like movement and how that changes the light on the body. So fixing this side of the face here, using my palette knife to erase a lot of these lines. And I'm leaving a lot of this like really light yellow in places, and that's okay. I think it's going to add to the painting later on. And you can see how non-absorbent this paper is, how I can take this back to the white of the paper pretty simply, pretty easily. Just scraping it off. And like I said, one of the more important corrections here is where the bridge of the nose is, and that angle is a little bit different. The nose comes out a bit more. And I want to repeat why I'm doing this, because it is important. The previous two paintings, actually previous three paintings, it took all the way to this painting for me to actually to get it to learn and change. But the previous three paintings that I did on the stream, I was having a lot of trouble with the drawing, and I know what the problem was. I wasn't really focusing on this stage. I was impatient. We talked about impatience already, to get to the painting stage. And part of that was, influence as far as like the stream itself and wanting to be as interesting as possible within that. So that's my excuse. Terrible excuse, but it's an excuse. So I, learn from that and say, okay, I need to really focus on this drawing, get these bigger shapes in, think about it in that way, and move through it with a little bit more patience, because it's what I need right now. One day, hopefully in my future, I can move through drawings a lot faster and more accurately. And I know for a fact that will happen as long as I keep looking at what I've done before, learning from my mistakes, and trying to do better on the next one. And that's, to simplify, not make it easy, but to simplify everything down to just that. Oof, I got the top of that lip like right on. I'm so happy with that. That's fantastic. I got this. This hand is pretty darn close. I'm happy with that. Just so important to, when we move through this art thing, to look at what we've done before, the previous painting, like our drawing that we've done, and really kind of just stop if we can, if we have the time, the brain power, and we want to put in the effort, But if you want to get better, faster, feedback, and not just feedback from other people, because if you're waiting on other people to give you feedback on everything you need to do, you're going to be, moving a little bit slower, because people are busy all the time. But identifying objective, practical ways to get feedback on your own art production is one of the best ways you can get better quickly, because you're constantly analyzing. You're constantly saying, oh, that line's a little bit off. That color is a little bit off. Okay, why? Why is it off? Let's try this. Okay, that didn't do it. Let's try this. Oh, okay, that did it. Why did that do it? What? And it's a repetitive thing. It's very repetitive because you'll deal with that same issue on the next painting or the third one after that, right? But constantly kind of analyzing what we're doing, facing the problems and when we screw up, and then celebrating when we do something well, having that balance. That's how you get really good really fast. It took me years to figure that out because, it just moved from painting to painting and not really analyze what was going on with the previous painting. It was just more like, oh, I painted it. Now let's move on to the next. And that's good. I mean, a lot of times I'm like, I don't feel like analyzing this. I just want to move on to the next painting. But if we're really working on improving our skills in whatever way that may mean to you, I think the analyzation is important. Like really falling in love with all this minutia that we can get into and going, oh, wow, look, I'm off on that. And I know exactly why. Okay, that was an important thing that I found about myself and how I move through painting or drawing or color or whatever. And if I don't do that again, all my paintings will be better. Sometimes it's not that simple. Okay. That's much closer. It feels much closer now. What's more important? What's more important? To work the way that everybody tells you to work because tracing is cheating, or using Photoshop to correct your drawing is cheating, or to get the painting the way you want it to get? I think we can have both, honestly. If I had to choose, I think the most important is to get the painting to look like the way you want it to look. I think that is the most important. You know how many artists have traced since before oil paint? Like tons and tons, right? That doesn't excuse us from doing it, but it does give some precedence, right? Like some understanding that, hey, it's out there and it's okay in a lot of ways. And we think about all those paintings and we're like, when I look at Wrath of Medusa by Jericho, if someone said, he traced that, or whatever, like he did a drawing and traced from it or something, I'd be like, I don't care. It's still an amazing painting. It's still absolutely breathtaking in all of its amazingness. Yes, please do more. It's kind of, there's extremes on both ends, I guess. Like I know artists that say, if you're working from photos and not from life, you're cheating. The whole cheating word is just kind of ridiculous anyways, in a lot of ways. I don't really subscribe to what cheating is. But that's pretty extreme. Like especially if you're a figure painter, it's like, well, I can't afford to pay models all the time. I just get my friends to pose for me in photos, right? How am I going to light this person standing out in 100-degree weather, direct sunlight? I mean, in like 2 minutes, they're going to be sunburnt. There's no way it's going to happen. So yeah, photos. So there's extremes, right? And then we're on the other end. Let's go on the other end of the extreme, which I don't like, but it's going to be out there. You get to generative work, you get a bot to do everything for you and they replace all of your creativity and everything. Like that's the other end of all this. You've given up all of your humanity and you just generated something and called it your own. Ugh. Sorry, I'm always going to feel strongly about that right now. So we find our balance. We find our own balance. And whether someone says this is good or this is bad, it's up for you to determine how you want to do things. And this is going to help me. there's going to be a point for me, though, where I say that's enough, and I want to train myself, so I don't need Photoshop that much, right? I don't need to check it that much. Am I going to continue painting this and check it again? Most likely not. I think what I have here within this drawing, I think is as close that I need to be. Let's move that reference back to where we were before. Oops. Here, here, here. There we go. There we are. Yeah. Okay. That's the beginning of this painting. Looking good. I'm happy. I'm happy with it. I love, more than anything, even if this painting turns out horribly, if I hate it, if I hate it at the end and don't like it, the idea behind it is driving me forward. I just love it so much. Oh, I missed some comments. Those look like fun comments. I need to see where those were. Oh, Cookie Monster. If I don't screw up again, all my paintings will be better. I know. I probably, I generalize things too much sometimes, right? I generalize them way too much. And I'm trying to get out of that. I'm trying to understand like the infinite idea of art and how we all can move through this in our own just ingenious and personal way. And I say, oh, this, and there's always going to be an alternate to that or a difference from that. But you're right. If you don't screw up again, all your paintings will be better. Why don't we should just do that. That'll be my course. It's going to be one video and one sentence long. It's going to be, hey, just don't screw up on everything you do and your paintings will be better. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. There we go. Helpful. So helpful. Michael says, definitely I will try this process with Photoshop. Yeah, here's what I'm going to say. I wish I could find an alternative to anything Adobe. I don't like big, huge companies that have such a stranglehold on all the environments that it's difficult. I love Krita, Krita. Krita is free and it's absolutely fantastic. It's wonderful. They just don't have, maybe I need to check it. They could, the geometry where you can line up the edges of a picture. That's the only difference, right? So Krita is really good, especially for digital painting. I would rather use Krita than Photoshop any day. It's far better for digital painting. I think Krita. Procreate is amazing. There's also GIMP, G-I-M-P, which I've gone back to so many times and it's still kind of a little janky in a lot of ways, but try other free alternatives. Krita and GIMP, those are out there. I would suggest stay away from Canva, stay away from Affinity, which was created by Canva. And I say that in a very personal way because they use so many AI technologies. And I hate using anything AI because it does negatively affect our environment right now. But that's me. It's up to you. I would urge you not to use it. Yeah, checking the proportions. Tracing is just like drawing. You can be good at it or not so good. Yeah, that's a good point, Cookie. And the reason why I prefer gridding over tracing, see, I could have gridded out this whole image on both ends and gotten closer a lot faster and easier just with a grid. The reason why I like gridding over tracing is, and you'll see that within the drawing course I'm creating, is you can start with this little small 1-inch grid or 1/2-inch grid. And then as you get better at drawing, as you start training to learning larger distances and judging those distances a lot accurately, you get bigger on the grid. You go from a 1/2-inch to 1-inch to 1.5-inch to 2-inch grid to 4-inch grid to just doing the halfway in between each one. There's a logical progression away from it. And that's why I like gridding, is because you're training to move away from the tool. It has a logical progression. With tracing, I don't know of a way to move away from that, especially if you're projecting and tracing. It's like, there's the exact image, maybe just doing like kind of how I did on here with the minimal lines on tracing and just using that. It still prevents you maybe with tracing to check after you draw it. That could be a better way of training yourself for that. Yes, Michael, for training, exactly. Looking perfect. I wish it was perfect, but not perfect. Yeah. No, I don't wish for perfection either. There was this really cool statement I heard from one of the personal development books. I think it was, the guy, I don't like the guy that much. He's a big salesman, $100 million offer guy. That was the name of the book. It's actually a good book, though. Alex Hormozy. Anyway, I think he was the one that said, or no. Anyway, whoever said it, perfection is the lowest bar you could try to achieve because it's impossible. I was like, oh, we could never get there, perfection. So I kind of stay away from the P word. I love the idea of mastery, that horizon that's way out. We move a mile forward and the horizon moves a mile away. That's what mastery is. So I don't like when people throw around this mastery word for artists, because I think many artists that are really, 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 really good know that they have still an infinite amount of information to learn. It's kind of, what is that statement? The true wise man knows that he knows nothing. Philosophy, sorry. Krista says, thank you for going into detail and explaining. You're welcome. You're welcome. Sketchbook app is a good choice. Ooh, look at that. I'm going to bring it up on a tab. Sketchbook app. If I don't do that, I'll forget about it. That's another reason for this amazing connection here. And I got somebody on Twitch. Away, spam. Move away. That's why I love this connection here, is because I've learned so much from you guys. It's been fantastic. You'll ask a question like, this painting got so much better when, yeah, I wish I was, let me zoom out. It'll be blurry, but it'll be fine. It'll be okay. So this painting got so much better because I think someone asked, there we go. Go in. Someone asked about why I decided not to do the bra strap on this side, because there was a bra strap here. And I was like, I feel like that line would be too sharp. I'm not sure how I could have made it soft. I could have changed the values and put it in there. But I didn't want this kind of sharp direction to kind of derail, because I had already built in, see the black, this horizontal that runs through the image. And I love that because it moves through all the major points of the image and really communicates how important these parts are. And because they asked that question was the only way I was able to understand that composition even better, learning so much on this. Krista says, I have the Notanizer. It's nothing like... That's actually kind of cool. Notanizer. So if you... Notans are... they're used in landscape and environment design for games and things like this, where you simplify like a complex composition into just black and white, just two things, black and white, big black and white shapes. And you get such a deep, and usually they're really small, like very small. You get a deeper understanding for the entirety of the composition. It's fantastic. So Notanizer is something like that. Yeah, I think Krista, trying to find your way through this checking of drawing with tracing paper could be your better way of doing things. That analog approach, in a lot of ways, I miss it. I do the digital thing because I know it, because I'm like deep into tech. I did web development for 15 years. I build my own computer, all this kind of stuff. So I know that I'm in like that headspace and the art space at the same time. So I can do it this way. And that's why I show it. And I think other people are there. But you're right. I need to have more of these, like with the drawing course I'm doing, these ways of moving through these aspects in a more analog way. Real paper, real pencil, real cheap. Yeah. Cookie Monster. Perfection is very achievable, but it's the question how you define it and what the purpose is of a given artwork. Yeah. I don't think I could ever reach what perfect is. That's how I define it. And that's why I say it that way. Like, what is a perfect painting? It's an opinionated question, but opinions are important to us individually. So, what is my perfect painting? I think I'll always be kind of striving for something closer and closer and closer to that. And I love this, 13 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever, 2016, when I was doing, very detailed figure paintings. I was so happy with those. Like, these are the best paintings I've ever done. And then I've moved through time, and I will continue to have these paintings, these points where I'm like, this is the best painting I've ever done so far. This is so much better. And they're the better word. I mean, they're so different. Like, I love this painting here. I think, honestly, recently, this is probably the best painting that I've done in a very long time. Yeah, I mean, I'm just so happy with this painting, and it's led me down this road that I'm going to continue on for a while. And I hope that within a couple months or future that I go on to the next best painting, which could be completely abstract or something and completely different, but it's like my next level, right? So, and I'm not sure if perfection will be there, but we'll see. Okay. Well, I've enjoyed our time together today. This painting is looking really good so far. You can go back to the image. Now, tomorrow is Friday. I keep saying, like last time I was on, I said, I'll see you tomorrow. And I didn't show up for 3 days. So I want to get into this habit of actually looking at my calendar and what's going on tomorrow. Friday's completely open from me. So definitely going to have a live stream tomorrow, unless I get sick or something happens, that kind of thing. That can always happen. But I'm planning on being here tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, for your questions, for your involvement, for your being here. I really appreciate your connection, finding this deeper connection within creating these videos and talking about everything I do, because it's very important to me that you're here. Krista says, yes, on your website, you can see how different each style is. Everyone goes through phases to what they enjoy, my opinion. I love that opinion. It's kind of like, and of course, I'm going to be on here a little bit longer, because it's a really good comment. Music. The Beatles. The Beatles first started out, and I hate the first Beatles songs. Like, I was in Live Drawing yesterday, and one of the earlier Beatles songs came on. I don't hate them, but very poppy, it was not the thing that I enjoyed. And then the later Beatles stuff, right? I'm like, oh, heck yeah, this is fantastic. But there's been like other musicians where they start out in a certain way and then they move into like a new thing, and then they lose a lot of people and then gain a lot of people because they're moving through their artwork and they're changing, they're understanding themselves a bit more. And I think that's the way it has to be. I think that's the best way of doing it. And what I don't like is, when we get into big galleries and all this stuff, it's like, oh, you got to do the same paintings over and over and over again, even if you don't like them, just so that they're sellable. I think the natural way to move through creativity is to understand how you change or can change, because there has been artists that just love the same motif over and over again and continue to do that, and to move through that change. Like, I love Andy Warhol, because Andy Warhol was one of these artists that said, yeah, I'm going to do soup cans printed, and then I'm going to do photographs, and then I'm going to do silver pillows floating in the room, and then I'm going to do paintings of Marilyn Monroe, and have all these different moments of like, this is what I'm doing now, and moving through it. And you have collectors that go, oh, I love this stage of Andy Warhol's career. Or, I love this stage of Andy Warhol's career. Or you have artists like the German expressionist that did like the paintings where he would have a big scraper. Oh my gosh. The brain, work on the name. Gerhard Richter. So Gerhard Richter is fantastic, because at the same time when he was doing these paintings where it was just, he would scrape the painting with these big squeegees, and it was very abstract, like abstract expressionist. At the same time, he was doing photorealism and diving into this idea of photorealism and things on two sides of the spectrums. And his biggest statement there was like, I can be this artist and this artist at the same time. I don't have to be just here or just there. I love that, like moving through who we are as people and those changes within our lives. Like, we start out super detailed, and then we move into, trying to do abstraction. Oh, you can really see the size of this painting like this. I love how when people buy my paintings and then they get it and they're like, wow, it's a lot smaller than I thought it was. It felt bigger. Thanks for this interesting conversation, Chris. You're welcome, Cookie. I appreciate you guys. Okay, now I really have to run. I'm going to be so late to helping them with their computer. But, it is what it is, right? Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Go to my website, chrisbevan.com, blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff. And Krista, I sent you an email. I'm sure you probably already replied to it, but so excited for you to be in the Painter's Path. I'll see you in there, and I'll see you tomorrow. So have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. I'm going to go bowling later, so it's going to be a lot of fun with a lot of friends. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.